This is What a Shout, brought to you by the Racing Post and Bet365. I'm Dave Orton. Joining me on the panel for all the big calls on all the big races. Delighted to say Bruce Millington back in the studio. Bruce.
Hi Dave, looking forward to another monster weekend. The racing just doesn't stop, does it? There's no let-up.
Some tricky races. Now, you're sitting in Paul Keeley's chair this week. How's the tipping at?
Oh, I wish I had Paul Keeley's judgment. I mean, even Keels would struggle this week. We've got 4 really tricky heats to look at, but I'm hoping I've unearthed a couple of decent value bets.
We will get to that. Stevie Donohoe, delighted to say, top jockey joins us. Royal Ascot winning jockey, Stevie. How long ago was that now? Raja Singh won the Coventry and just smashed up the course record that year. Was that? I'm going to say 2016. Would that be right?
17, I think.
Yeah, nearly.
Yeah. How are you, Dave? How's things?
Absolutely delighted to have you on. I'll tell you what, weird old world at the moment, Stevie, isn't it? How was lockdown for you, first and foremost? You're a keen golfer as well, Stevie, aren't you? So you couldn't even do that.
Oh, I enjoyed lockdown. I didn't play a lot of golf, mind you, but I recently moved house there in December, so I really attacked all the gardens and around the house, and I've done a few bits and bobs, and I enjoyed lockdown. That break was nice.
A little bit of sedentary lifestyle was good for us all. And talking of the sedentary lifestyle, from the track, no other, a sign of the changing times. Pat Cooney from our sponsors, Bet365. Pat.
Good morning to you. I thought I'd add a bit of culture and put a tie in as well for you, Dave.
Very, very nice. Standards must be maintained, as David Revers said on the show last week. Let's have a look at what's coming up on the show for you then. We're going to have a look at some clues for you for what's happened in the last week. Just a Derby and the Oaks to talk about, amongst other things. We're going to have a look at the hot topic. We're going to be having previews of all the big races, as Bruce said, some tricky puzzles to solve. We'll then be getting all the naps from the panel and, of course, the big shouts on the show. So the team here at the Racing Post Members Club have been working on some exciting stuff behind the scenes. I've been giving away some crazy offers this year so far. And from Monday, look out for the Ultimate Daily. That's right, a daily newsletter giving you all the press as it happens in your Members Club. Time for the hot topic then this week, and quiet enough news week until, of course, on Thursday, Lizzie Kelly, first female jockey to win a Grade 1 winner over jumps, announced on her Twitter, that's it, no more from me, she's expecting a baby. Huge friend of the show, congratulations, Lizzie. So basically, she's going to with her husband Ed, she's got the Valentine bloodstock to go to. It's an interesting subject this, isn't it? What do jockeys do afterwards? Maybe let's just have a word about Lizzie so far. There's been some great pieces in the paper, haven't they? What she did for racing. T for 2, for example. Cuckoo Sivola, Coup Star Sivola, I should say.
She's an excellent jockey, yeah, really good jockey. I remember backing Agripart in the Betfair Hurdle, and she just kept it so nice and simple that day. Got up with the pace, pointed, steered, and really good, strong jockey, really good. And as with Bryony Frost, great in those post-race interviews in the saddle where she's really ebullient and buzzing after these victories. And she had a really, really great talent. And her and Bryony did a hell of a lot for female jockeys, particularly over jumps. And I think she's been really good, and I'm sure she'll go on to be a success. She's actually done some reporting for the Racing Post.
She has. She was on the news desk.
She was on the news desk. She'd be ringing around trainers and getting stories. And funny enough, you mentioned T for 2. I once made the mistake of offering her a cup of tea, and she said, "Oh no." She said, "I like it a really particular way." And I said, "Well, come on, tea's tea." And honestly, the instructions she gave me were unbelievable. If she ever becomes a trainer, don't ride for her, because if the tea instructions are like the riding instructions, it'd be the most complicated thing of all time.
1 sugar or 2, basically.
It wasn't anything like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, fair enough. Listen, she opened the doors, Stevie, didn't she, to a totally new audience. Life after the saddle then, Stevie. I mean, a lot of footballers go into the media, if we can liken that. We've seen some jockeys go through jets as well. When do you start thinking, I mean, obviously fitness has got a lot to do with it. You've got to hope that you are injury-free, example. When do you start thinking about what's next?
I think during your career, you always put a few things aside, or something you enjoy as you're riding, you might look into doing afterwards. As you see, a lot of guys are good in front of the telly. They get involved in the other side of the industry, whether that be working in yards or bloodstock industry, like Lizzie's probably going to do. It's like there is such a big world out there after riding, and sometimes we do get a little bit cocooned in it, and then suddenly at the end of your career, you're kind of lost. So we're blessed in a way. We have got jets who have brilliant people in Phil Kinsler and that there who pick the phone up, give them a call, explain your kind of little passions or what you're interested in, and they put you on the right path wherever that may lead to.
She hasn't quite closed the door, has she? She said at the end, I don't want to totally close the door on riding. She may well come back. People do after giving birth, and Nina Carberry, I seem to remember, was the same. You remember Jamie Spencer, Stevie, wasn't he? He was the great, that's it, I'm done. And all the calls to come back, he's been riding it, better than ever since.
Yeah, exactly. Look, a lot of them have retired and made a comeback. I'm sure it might be a little bit different for women after having a baby, where it might be easier for men. But I think that if the door's not closed, she could come back. She's a brilliant jockey, great for the sport. And I imagine a couple of years out and then rock on back, get fit, could really easily work.
Yeah, she'll be on What a Shout, no doubt. Pat, a quick line on Lizzie Kelly, please.
Well, I thought she was an excellent jockey. I mean, I remember her winning on Sura de Luck at the festival, an outstanding ride. And the conversation of women jump jockeys seems to be Bryony Frost, Nina Carberry, Katie Walsh. But I think Lizzie Kelly deserves her place amongst the top table there. I thought she was an excellent jockey, and I wish her well. I'm sure she'll be very good at whatever she does, because I know she was a very good jump jockey.
Absolutely. So, Lizzie, good luck in the future. Come back on What a Shout when you're ready. Right, let's have a look at the racing clues from the last weekend then. Just happened to be an Oaks and a Derby on the same card at Epsom. What did you make of it? Don't forget to let us know whatever you think. Questions to the panellists. # What a Shout. We will get back to you with the feedback through the show as we go on. We read all of it. Love to hear from you. Bruce, love to hear from you. Is Serpentine a monster? Is he a red herring? Racing Post ratings, the handicappers gave Love 1-2-2. That put him a pound ahead of 1-2-1. I thought 1-1 was fairly high for Serpentine.
I mean, you can only really ever judge the quality of a derby after the ark's been run, and I think that's particularly the case this year, because obviously the weird way that the race was run, it still takes some answering. I know that people have done forensic analysis on the stopwatch, and the message from those people who've done that is that it was a really good run. It didn't go off too quickly, but they just dawdled in behind. So time will tell. I'd love to be able to come up with a strong view on this, but I'm afraid my jury is massively out on it.
Well, maybe Stevie not going to know until he runs next. But Stevie, at what point watching the Derby did you think, Emmett McNamara is not for catching here?
I thought going down the hill, I thought it was a very good ride. I agree with Bruce. I think this horse is actually very good. I think he won well at the Curragh, and then, as you say, just when he extended down that bottom bend, and as Epsom is, the camber, it's so hard to pull him back, and just nothing got into it. And everyone knew the fate 2 furlongs out, really, I imagine. And
what about Love? Give us a quick line on Love. Do you think she'd have won a Derby, for example? She was just sizzling, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was brilliant. I think she could have been definitely there. But I'm taking nothing away from the winner of the Derby. I thought he was a good horse. And I think that just they gave him a freebie out in front, and it's killed them all off.
Okay, so Pat, let's have a word with you. This was a complete Skinner for you, surely.
Oh, he was a cracking result, Dave. And the great thing was we were first 4 places on the race, and the 4th that day was Kamiko, and no one backed him each way because everyone thought he was either going to win or blow out completely. We couldn't have written the result better. We actually kept 50% of whatever we took, which is a pretty amazing stat, really. But we wouldn't mind a Derby like that every year. As for the winner, he has to come out and run again so we can all make our mind up again, can't we? He could be Secretariat, he could be very ordinary. I do think Love's probably the best 3-year-old in the stable, that being said. But I hope Serpentine comes out and repeats it again and gets us all talking once again.
Stevie, can I just ask you a question? When you and the other riders are in the pack and there's a horse gone blazing clear, it must give you a hell of a dilemma. You're thinking, is this thing coming back to us? What do we do? Do we go after it? Do you discuss it when you're in those situations ever?
It does happen. We've been in races where you've seen something go massive in front, and you kind of, I won't say we panic, but you know that you're in the wrong place and you're given a lot of freeway. But there's nothing you can do unless you barge somebody out of the way and you make that kind of move. I think a lot of lads were probably in that position where they just had to sit, ride the race, and still know that, we're given a lot of ground here, but we have to just take our medicine where we're locked in. It's a derby at the end of the day too, and I imagine them guys are, you're always going to be shot at, and it's on the big stage, so it's not a little gaff track where you're running around and people are, not going to make much of a judgment on it if you do get it wrong. But in a derby, you're going to get shot down, so you have to be a bit more reserved, I suppose, in the riding with that. Also, you have to think, a lot of lads be looking, thinking, is this just the pacemaker out to make it a good test? And should we really show our hand and chase it? And I think, it was a tricky race how it worked out, and a lot of lads would have been in the difficult position whether to make a move or chase, and they just kind of sat and let the race develop. And unfortunately, the winner got the run on them.
I'll tell you what, there did have been a lot of jockeys, right or wrong, that were like, thank God the crowd's not here. We're coming back in. You know what I mean? So a lot of pressure rides in the Derby. So there was a massive tailwind at Epsom. Let's talk about the Sunday then. The sizzling eclipse, one of the better clips I've ever seen, that's for sure. Certainly the amount of interest in it, Bruce, where the wind was right in their faces and Gayeth broke Enable's heart. What did you make of Enable, first and foremost, before we talk about the Godolphin monster?
I thought that Frankie gave the leader, the winner, a lot of fairly easy ground early on in the race, and it was difficult for her to catch up. I just feel like, I just thought, he probably should have kept tabs with the winner more. And look, and the amount of times you have any cause to think Frankie's made a mistake, it happens extraordinarily rarely. He's the best jockey, but I just wonder with that one whether or not he just let the winner just get a little bit too far away. But against that, Gayeth is proving people wrong left, right and centre, isn't he? He's passed this, there's all these sort of tests he has to prove before anyone actually rates the horse. Yeah. And this time he's passed the one of running without having had a 100-day break. So I think we all need to start giving Gayeth much, much more respect now.
Well, I think so, absolutely. He does look like potentially the best turf horse in the world, doesn't he? I think that is, which is wonderful for Godolphin, Charlie Appleby and the British race fans as well. Stevie, coming to you, it was really interesting, wasn't it, that they allowed him to get his own way. We were expecting maybe Bangkok with SDS, Sylvester D'Souza to go on, Magic One, that could, the Ballydoyle supposed second string. They didn't attack him early. Were you surprised by that?
I think Gayeth has a massive stride. I think he covers a lot of ground, and I think that he just basically, if they did take him on, he would have actually run him into the ground. So they just let him get on with it. He got on a great rhythm, Sandown, suits that kind of front running horse. I think Frankie, with all the talk beforehand of them saying that she's not fully wound up fit, 85%, I think they were saying, he's probably just had to ride a conservative race and still kind of knowing that he can't chase too soon and bottom her out. But I just think good horse, just stayed in front. Meet again. If they go to the arc and bump into each other, we'll see. But I just thought it was a very good performance for both, especially if the rumours are true. She was 85% fit behind.
Yeah, the anti-post calendar, Pat, is really starting to set itself now in this crazy year that we're having. Pat, Enable for the Arc, first and foremost. Has she been usurped by Love now as the favouritism?
Yeah, I think the tradition nowadays, you tend to go with the progressive 3-year-old filly and none more so than Love. Of course, she's 3, Enable's 6. I wouldn't have any problem at all with Enable's run at Sandown the other day. But you would imagine Love was the type to continue to improve, whereas Enable's 6-year-old probably not. You scratch below the surface, though, I don't really see beyond the big 2 at the moment, really. Something's really got to introduce themselves at these the 3 big French trials coming up, or maybe Serpentine goes there or whatever, but it does look between either Love or Enable to me at the moment. So hopefully we'll all be heading off to France and seeing an Art 1-2 again.
Hopefully that will be the case. Will the Queen bounce back? We've got the King George and the Jub Monte to come. Sizzling. Time for the big race preview then, the first of another sizzling weekend. Just another Group 1 for you. It's the July Cup. Before we have a dissection of this, Pat Cooney, give us a market update, what you expect to happen.
One-way traffic at the moment here, Dave. It's all been Golden Horde. Of course, he earned the right to become favourite after the Commonwealth Cup. He's been heavily backed right the way through. And it is a 3-year-olds race now. The last 3 runnings of the race, 3-year-olds have won. He won first time out at Royal Ascot, looked a strong Commonwealth Cup. And then you go to the Diamond Jubilee. There was a tea-towel over the front 3 in the market in the result that day. So I look at Golden Horn. He's already good. He's probably going to be even better. He's a worthy favourite. I'm here down at the track. It's a nice sunny afternoon here. And I don't think the ground's going to be troublesome for any of them in the race. So I'm not looking for mudlarks. I'm not looking for fast ground horses. I'm just looking, keep it simple. The best horse in the race will probably win. And I think that has to be Golden Horde.
Big tick for Golden Horde. Of course, this is the first race, Bruce, that the 3-year-olds are taking on their elders this season. 3-year-olds have dominated, but you're not so sure about the Commonwealth Cup.
No, I'm not sure about the Commonwealth Cup. I mean, obviously, we will know a lot more after tomorrow. But, it just didn't... The Commonwealth Cup's been one of the greatest innovations in this century in racing. You know, I mean, it was just within 2 years, you were like, well, how did we do without this? And it's been a brilliant race. But I just wonder how good this year's was. We will find out. Golden Horde just looks a little short to me. I think sometimes people get a little bit carried away with certain horses' potential, and I just, to me, I would play Hello Youmzain each way.
You love this chap,
I really
don't
do.
you?
Like, he's won 2 Group 1s. He beat a lot of these last time at Ascot, fair and square. He's ground versatile. I think if you back him each way at around about 5-1, I can see 1 beating him. I could see 2 beating him. I don't see 3 beating him. And I just think he's not what you call a sexy horse. Golden Horde is very much the progressive, sexy profile. I'm going to go with Hello Youmzain. I think actually the threat might be Threat. I thought he ran a blinder in the St James's
race of the meeting.
Looked all over a sprinter, didn't he? He fizzled out really badly in the final furlong. But I think this drop back to 6 will suit him well. And I think Threat's a really big price.
Yeah, he's very interesting indeed. Just beaten by Golden Horde as a 2-year-old. I like KR for Charlie Hills. If you watch back at that Diamond Jubilee, he basically tracked the rag on the stand side, you remember, before they all came over. And I just thought he got to the front too soon. He's in stall 1. Which is interesting, Stevie, isn't it? Because that's right up against the fence. Stall 12 has won the last couple, so big tick for Hello Youmzain. It's all about pace in this sprint races, Stevie, isn't it? First and foremost, if you were drawn in 1 on the stand side, what would you be thinking of doing if you're on a horse that needed a bit of cover? Would you just be playing it for luck, or would you be looking for where the pace angles are?
You probably just kind of see how the race develops out of the gates. If they divide, if they split, if they go one side or the other. And I think regarding Golden Horde, he's got amazing speed. He'll just jump and he'll just bowl on, you know. He'll just keep it simple and straightforward wherever he goes, really. I think regarding what the ground is going to do, where they come, it's all going to depend really on the day.
And if you had to ride one, Stevie, where would you be telling the agent to jot you up?
I think Golden Horde would be hard to beat in that race.
Golden Horde. Clive Cox does seem to get these really straightforward sprinters, doesn't he?
He's brilliant with sprinters, isn't he?
Let's hope for a golden edition then of the Group 1. Right, then another big race preview. It's the Bet365 Bunbury Cup. Bet365 all over the place at Newmarket at the July Festival, quite rightly too as well. That's why Pat Cooney's back on the track. Before we go to Pat for his selection, Bunbury Cup. The Hunt Cup looked really, really strong to me, and that's kind of where I wanted to get my selection. We've got 2 Hamdan Al-Maktoum horses there. We've got Mutamasik and Motakayel. I think I've got that right, just about. Are you thinking it's going to be a progressive performer, or are you going with something solid, rock solid, that will pick them up?
I'll tell you what I'm going with. I'm going with a horse that ran really well at Royal Ascot on what was clearly the unfavoured far side, and that's Raising Sand. That really caught my eye that day, because only 4 of the horses formed that little mini group. By then, everyone knew to come across this side, but they stayed on the far side.
And he did catch the eye, didn't he?
And beat the other 3 hollow. And it was a good performance, that. Nicola Curry rides, and I just think that Raising Sand is value here. Yeah,
you want a little bit of juice in the ground frame? We were talking about this, weren't we?
Probably. I mean, I know Pat's there and says that there's not a lot of rain forecast. It was pretty soft yesterday. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to not back him if the ground does dry out. It probably would be an advantage, but I just thought that run at Ascot was really decent on what was, like I say, clearly unfavourable ground.
Yeah, the Hunt Cup, I think it just looks like such a strong race this year. I've got a card sharp for one of Mark Johnson's in there. James Doyle on high draw, around about 25-1. He's the kind of horse that will pop up in one of these races sooner or later. I wanted to go for something at a price. Pat Cooney, you quite like Raising Sand as well?
Yeah, I'm joining the gang as well. It just seems to me the type of horse that, if you're out the country and you arrived and you said, what won the Bunbury Cup? And someone you said, Raising Sands came through and won at a big price for Nicola Curry, you'd go, oh, well, I'm not surprised about that. And I think that's the nature of the race. The 2 at the front of the market, Mutta and Muta, there won't be much between them. There wasn't much between them at the Royal Meeting, so I can't see there being much between them this time around. I think Sabuska's the type of horse that will be popular. William Knight did us all a big turn yesterday, having a 40-1 winner in our sponsored race. And Sabuska's got Oisin Murphy up, so he's going to be popular. I think the front 2, they're rock-solid form book chances. But I think there's going to be loads of other horses being backed in the race against them. It is that type of race. And you look at a horse like Godhead as well. John Gosden with a horse at a double-figure price. I think the front 2 are going to have their chances. But like Bruce, like myself, we're all looking for one with a bigger price about its name.
Give us some help, Stevie Donohoe, on this tricky Bunbury Cup.
Oh, it's as you say, anything can really win on form. The one I thought might run well is Arigato, who's drawn beside the favourite there. I thought won well. Newmarket last day, he's gone up £5, but I thought might get a nice toe into the race. Likes the ground, could run well.
Yeah, Joe Gordon on a hat trick.
Stevie, there's one of the oldest phrases in racing is that jockeys make terrible tipsters. I always reply to that saying tipsters make even worse jockeys. But are you a good tipster? Are you a good judge?
I like to think I'm not too far away. Listen, we get it wrong now and again. If you spoke to my family members, they probably tell you I'm useless. But anyway, we'll see.
We'll judge you on your naps, Stevie, which are coming up later on the show. Listen, does that help you? The Bunbury Cup is a minefield. Let's go to Ascot then for another big race preview here on What a Shout. It's the Summer Mile, Group 2. Really interesting race. It's again the older milers. The division has been weak for a little while. One of the biggest eye catchers for me, Bruce, of the whole meeting at Royal Ascot was Mutahar in the Queen Anne. It was a race where he had to be up there. Marie's Diamond, who reopposes, she just got the run on them, didn't she? And Circus Maximum and Terra Bellum, who was, of course, back out this week. It looked like one of the stronger, I think, Queen Anne's. He was a huge eye catcher, 5-2.
He's caught everyone's eye though, hasn't he? That's why he's 5-2. A little bit skinny for me, I think, Dave. I'm going to go for a horse who we haven't seen for a long time called San Donato of Roger Varian's. 3 wins at 2, including a victory over Hello Youmzain, and only run since was 3rd in the French 2000 Guineas. Decent enough performance.
Yep.
He's obviously had setbacks, but they've kept the faith, and I think Roger Varian can get them ready first time out. So around about 10-1, I just thought that was an each-way alternative to the favourite.
Yeah, he had the 4th in the Queen Anne, of course, who's got a line on the form. Stevie Donohoe, Summer Mile. Do you like the fav, or are we looking elsewhere?
I like the favourite. I think it'd be hard to beat, but I also think Zaki down the bottom might run a big race. Michael Stout's horse. I thought he ran well in it last year, and I think he might run well tomorrow again. But I like the favourite. I think it should be one-way traffic for him as well.
Yeah,
pretty bold opinion, but I just think it'd be hard to beat.
Let me tell you out there, Stevie, Zaki has been a bit of a cliff horse for me. I was on him. You remember the ill-fated Beat the Bank, of course, in this last year. Big ride this for Louis Stewart, isn't it? Of course, now with Sir Michael Stout. This could really do well for his career.
Louis, great jockey. Actually, was on a Jockeys Challenge with Louis in Barbados. Nice guy, laid back. Won't really bother him too much.
At the Garrison Savannah, it's mad over there, isn't it?
Oh, God, I tell you what, it's like a wall of death going around the first bit.
I've been there. It's absolutely... If you've never been out there, viewers, you've got to go. When you can get over to Barbados, it's fantastic. And the highlight for me was Garrison Savannah.
Yeah, no, it's as you see, the crowd, they get so involved. But I tell you what, we had our team tactics before the first race to go out and, be nice and forceful, and it was pretty heckless going into that first bend.
Okay, so Louis Stewart, this might be a little bit more straightforward for him, although he's not the easiest ride, Zaki. He's a bit bigger than the market than I was expecting, Pat. Where's your selection going to come from?
Well, you know what, Dave? Bookmakers love unlucky losers, and Mahatha was certainly an unlucky loser last time out. We all doing our sums on the basis he would have been a hell of a lot nearer. Of course, that was a Group 1. This is a Group 2. I'm also going to stick in that race. I thought Scardo of William Haggis, I thought that was quite unlucky in running as well, where I was all drawn to Mahatha. But if you watch the take back against Scardo, he didn't see too much daylight. So I'd rather be on Scardo at his roundabout 6 than Mahatha's 5-2.
Got Lord Glitters in there as well, finally making his comeback for David O'Mara. It's one of those races, I think, that we've all got an allegiance to a horse in there. Let me tell you, I think the favourite will win. Let's hope for another Mile Star to emerge. Right then, time for the big calls. We know you love this section. I love this section as well. We've been talking about owners coming back, Bruce. We've been talking about, punters back through the door. This week, I'm going to keep it simple with a horse. Highest ground that got beaten in the Dante. I think this horse will win a Group 1. I'm almost certain of it. A lot of people say, he looks a bit soft in a finish to me. Thunderous came and did him, if you remember. He looks certain to go on. I think he pressed the button a bit soon, Oisin Murphy. This is one horse I think I've just got that vibe about.
Which Group 1?
Well, that's a great shout, isn't it? Maybe something like a Coronation Cup next year. I think he's that sort of class. Stouty loves him, I know that. And I think the fact that Sir Michael Stout was his hand was forced a little bit, wasn't he? These horses, especially 3-year-olds, maybe Stevie can back me up on this a little bit, when they're forced to run again so quickly, on a second run, they can just go that little bit weak. And, I was watching the finish, and he just oozed class, didn't he? Coming through that Dante, and you're like, how far is this? Last off the bridle. And I was saying to a guy I was watching it with, a punter mate of mine, I said, I think is he going to go a bit weak here? He just looked like he curled up a little bit. So which Group 1? That's a great shout. Will it be 10 furlongs? Will it be a mile 4? Stevie, am I mad here?
No, I think he's a lovely horse. I think he's just his third run, so Michael takes his time to bring him along. I agree, he travelled well and then probably just got a little bit tired. I think Oisin spoke afterwards. I think he kind of took a bit of blame himself. But, he's a nice horse. They're still learning about him. We're still all watching him. And I think he could go on to better things. He'll improve and he'll get stronger and better.
Yeah, my big call then. Highest Ground will emerge as an absolute star. Bruce Millington.
I want to offer some reassurance to punters, okay? Because there's a lot of punters out there now, and they might follow certain racing people on Twitter, and they must be thinking to themselves, hang on a sec, I used to go on ground preferences and draw and jockey and horses that caught my eye, but now it feels like unless you're analysing sectional times, wind speed, stride length, all these other things, you don't have a chance. Believe me, you do. You don't have to. There's some fantastic new techniques and race analysis has really moved on, and that's absolutely fantastic, okay? And there's no problem with that whatsoever. I think, it's absolutely right that people do take the most scientific approach. But it doesn't mean you have to. It's still perfectly possible to find winners using your eyes and using your judgment and using your intuition. So I just want to reassure some punters who must think, hang on a second, am I getting left behind? You're not, it's fine. Keith
Melrose in the paper today in your members section, he did a great piece, didn't he, about turf tracks during Ascot, trialling this new app about telling us more about the wind. And let me tell you, I spoke to you off air, I said, as an analyst and as a close-up guy, it is a bit of a nightmare, but it's the one bit of the job you're like, am I getting this absolutely right? Because the wind could come from all over the place. However, I mentioned this to my wife, Keith's piece, as detailed and as good as it was. And she just said, well, if it's in your face, you're slower, and if it's behind you, you're faster, isn't it? I felt like I had egg on my face there, so it can be simple. Stevie, what do you make of that?
I'm a big fan of all the sectional timings, everything like that. I use my own kind of guide to do data analysis and kind of figure out. I think there's massive biases at certain tracks, headwinds, things like that. You could just say, will have an effect. No, I'm all for them. I think there's a huge arsenal of stuff that punters can kind of go and find out and get that little bit extra, a little bit more of a niche.
And Stevie, do you count in your head? I mean, everyone always talks about Corthan, the legendary jockey with the clock in his head. Are you kind of counting seconds per furlong in your head, or can you just sense when you're going quickly or
it's like jumping out of a parachute, isn't it? 1, 2, 3.
I'm fascinated to know what how those sectionals, as a jockey, you obviously digest the sectional times, but how does it actually translate to how you ride the horses?
For me personally, to ride the track is different in your head than the speed you're going. There's a lot of tracks that won't suit you going too fast. Like if you were to go to a certain track, Catterick, for instance, you're always going to be going that little bit quicker than if you're going to a more conventional track like a Doncaster or something. It's up and down ridges. So you can't really be counting furlongs and kind of, sticking to that plan. For me, the sectional timings and the data works in that when I do the form studying or I've been told the form studying, I'll always try and follow horses that have consistently run at a certain pace, certain speeds, and where they kind of branch out, so that if I am parked up behind one, I'll know, well, if it was past 3 runs, he's travelled at a certain speed, but he never finishes with a certain speed. So therefore, I don't want to be stuck behind him at a 2-pole because I know his last 2 furlongs have always been slow. And that's the only kind of way I use it, rather than a start of the race. I can always tell if I'm going too fast or too slow, but it's where I'm parked in it is that I use it the most.
Does it frustrate you, Stevie, when you're on a hold-up performer and they just dawdle up front? Do you give each other banter about that, or is it something that generally irks you in the car on the way home?
Oh, well, I'm probably one of the most vocal guys in the weigh room for giving out, so you'll always hear me in a race shouting if it's going too slow. It's frustrating for people at home, but it is frustrating for the jockeys. We like normal, good run races. It makes it fair. It keeps it simple. It makes our job easier. So when it's a dawdle and we're kind of all stuck in behind and waiting, you see the problem comes from instructions. Trainers giving you instructions, and sometimes your hands are tied and you want to just wheel out, go and take the race by the horns and get on with it. But some people don't like that. You have to sit and suffer. Like we've seen the Derby, a lot of guys have to sit and wait. But it is a pain in the arse when you're kind of out the back, they're going steady, you just know you're going to have to come in and explain that there's no pace, and the trainers look at you and say, why didn't you go on? You're kind of like, well, I was locked up, couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it's nice to know we all feel the same, Bruce.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it, to actually hear from jockeys just about what goes on there, you know, in the sort of peloton, so to speak. And it must be awful, that feeling when you know that you can't go on because you've been told not to, and you're going to get the most almighty roasting when you get back to the paddock.
Punters are coming back soon on the racecourses. Jockeys, get with the programme. It's been pretty consistent, isn't it, throughout. Pat Cooney, then give us a big call.
Well, I've become a big fan of these 10 race cards. I think operationally it's much more easier. And I was just wondering, from Stevie's point of view, is he better off being based at one track where there's 10 races rather than, say, riding in the first 3 at Lingfield and then jetting off to Kempton in the evening? That's not very good for the health, really, is it? I've actually enjoyed the 10 race cards, the early start. You can get a handle on if there's any track bias, any stalls advantage and so forth. And for me, I find it much more easier to deal with. So I think maybe this is the future. South Africa often have 10 race cards. America, I went to the Belmont Stakes one year, I think it was a 15 race card. It seems to be the norm in many other places. A 6 race card is plenty expensive enough, really. If you suddenly make that a 10 race card, maybe that'll get more people through the gates.
15 race card at the bar, you're going to need to be lucky that day, aren't you? Stevie, I guess from an operational point of view, it's been a real plus for you.
I'm all for the 10 race card, and I'm all for the 1 meeting a day rule. Every jockey in Wareham, as far as I'm aware, are all for just sticking at the 1 meeting. It makes perfect sense for us not to be charging all over the country. Regarding the 10 races, it's great. The only gripe I'm having with it is they're doing it on Sundays, and they're doing 35 minutes between races. This is just unacceptable. I understand, okay, we got to get punters in on Sunday, but do we really need to be racing around at 6 o'clock on a Sunday and starting, at 2? If we started earlier and finished earlier, much better. It gives us all a bit of a life. Sunday's the only day I think that we should have a change in the big cards. Apart from the week, many races you want.
And Stevie, it must be absolutely a real godsend, the reduction in traffic on the road. I mean, how much are you guys appreciating that?
Yeah, once again, traffic is a big problem for us getting to the race meetings. I've lost numerous rides by getting traffic, and the frustrating thing, Bruce, is when you miss a ride because of traffic, it's the onus is on you. It's your fault, and you've missed a ride. You've been contracted to go and make that race in that time, and traffic or no traffic, you should be there and to explain to people, oh, the M1 was chocolate. They just look at you as if you're just unprofessional, and it's so frustrating. So this 1 meeting a day rule is making sure we get our ducks in line, we get to the races early, and we're at our place of work. We can do our work. Whereas before, this Mickey Mouse scenario of jumping in the car to do 3 meetings, it's just unbelievable how we went through. And I'm all for it staying in. And I think a lot of jockeys are, and I think that I'd be definitely a big advocate of making sure it stays.
He said he was one of the biggest for giving out. I think that's just been borne out there, isn't it? Food for thought, some genuinely fascinating big calls. Right then, just to make things nice and easy, let's go for the final big race preview then, the 350, the Betfred Heritage Sprint, all over the track here. I went for a Plum, Willie Haggis's horse. Do you remember we were in on the studio and on the Saturday of Ascot, they went for, what was it, Nayar, wasn't it? The massive gamble in the Silver Wokingham, because the ground had dried up, he was on the near side. Everything basically that Plum didn't like. I thought he ran really, really well. There should be just enough juice in the ground. I think there's a big one in him. Did you have a big, strong fancy in this?
I don't think you can. It's 5 furlongs, it's a zillion runners, it's very difficult. I've gone for Tone the Barone for Stuart Williams, who has had a wind up, come back with 3 wins at Chelmsford.
Great name, isn't it, Tone the Barone?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Jason Watson's drawn 7, so he should be able to choose which side he goes if there is a bias. And I just thought at 12-1 he was a spot of value.
Yeah, Ornate's in stall 5, Stevie, isn't he? The likely favourite, Arecibo's just next to him. You'd be happy, surely, if you were drawn low with a front runner there, or perhaps you've got other ideas.
Like you, I've gone for a Plum also. Ornate, is he favourite? I didn't think he was favourite.
No, he's going to be the hare in the race. He's the one that steams off. Arecibo will track him, surely.
I just think, as Bruce just said, it's fast and furious, and it's just one of them that'll come out of the pack at the end. I've not really gone through it as much as somebody else, but I just think that Plum had a good chance. He goes on soft ground, and he's run at Ascot well before. I thought he hung right the last day. up the straight Ascot, and that maybe when he starts getting a bit tired, so this should be back to suit him.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure he's straightforward like you as well, but I know William Haggis thinks the world of him, and there's a big one in him. Pat Cooney, give us some help.
I'm going for JONAH Jones, number 14, trained by Ed Walker. I thought he ran quite well last time, a little bit unlucky, and he's drawn stall 20 of 20. That could be good, bad or ugly come the time of the race, but he is up against the fence. It was a likeable run. I'd probably want 3 or 4 darts to try and hit the bullseye, but I'd be happy with JONAH Jones.
No one going for the Fav. That's interesting, isn't it? Don't be afraid of a price in the 350. Let's bring in the guys from the My Racing Weekend Double then. Good to have them on. Check out myracing.com. We've got a massive following on Twitter, as I always say. Really good analysis and expert tips for you. They're keeping it simple. In the Summer Mile at Ascot, Mohatha, I think he's got a right old chance. And trusting Clive Cox in the July Cup, Golden Horde. They also napped him at Royal Ascot. Nap time then, the weekend winners for you. If you don't mind, chaps, I'll take the floor. 12.10, the first race at Newmarket, medal winner. There's a horse in there called Yuri Gagarin of Goslin's Bruce, Godolphin, 1 from 1. But you see these horses on Polytrack that come out on turf, he's got to prove it. Medal winner, we spoke to David Revers last week. I've got some nice encouragement about him. He'll do for me for Qatar Racing. Yourself?
Keep it simple. Hello, Youmzain, each way in the July Cup, 3:35 at Newmarket.
Not just Rafe Beckett, top of the Hello Youmzain fan club as well. Stevie Donohoe, let's go to you. You've got a good book of rides at Salisbury tomorrow night, Stevie. Which is the buzzer?
One horse I really like that I got Charlie to hang on to. I think it's going to be a good stayer this year. Is a horse called Rudy Lewis. He runs in the 8:45 race at Salisbury tomorrow, so I'm going to stick that to my colours and give it a good go.
Worth staying up for with Stevie Donohue's rise. Pat Cooney.
I fancy going to Ascot in the 2:05 for Rafe Beckett's Declared Interest. I thought this filly ran ever so well at the Royal Meeting. I think she's well handicapped of a mark of 85. I expect a big run from her. So Declared Interest, 2:05 at Ascot.
The business end of the show, your weekend winners. Well, the curtain comes down then on the What a Shout, another sizzling Group 1 weekend for you. Newmarket and Ascot we've previewed. There's a great Sunday action as well, isn't there? Pinatubo coming back in France. Don't forget to leave your questions for the panellists. Hashtag What a Shout. We do read them. We love your feedback. Don't forget to download the Racing Post app as well on the App Store and the Play Store as well. Gamble responsibly all the way. Stevie Donohoe, your What a Shout debut. How was it?
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Dave. Really enjoyed it.
It was lovely to get inside your head, and I mean that. Bruce Millington, lovely to get inside your head again and hear everything going on there.
It's not a place you really want to go.
Not at the minute, maybe not. Pat Cooney, you're back on course. Life is good.
Oh, absolutely. And what a July this has been for us, and plenty more to come, so we're looking forward to it all.
Join us next Friday then for another What a Shout. Until then, be lucky.